Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So what did you think of Jodie Whittaker's final Doctor Who episode? I'm going to say it. That was a great regeneration episode. Finally, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor given pride and given justice. Well done, Chris Chibnall, finally, although I'm still slightly suspicious that Russell T Davies ghost wrote that episode. That's quite disrespectful on Chris Chibnall. It is his name on the episode, so I'm just going to have to accept that he did a good thing. But of course, I do have some complaints. First of all, right, the Fugitive Doctor. Why did he ever introduce the Fugitive Doctor, right? He gave her a cameo in this episode, but it wasn't her. It was the Mirage thing that the Doctor had recorded prior, and you saw different versions of these Doctors. So basically, no explanation for the Fugitive Doctor. What was the point of introducing her? He didn't mention the Timeless Child once, making the Timeless Child the biggest of hot takes in television history. What was the point of any of it? He didn't deal with any of it in the end. Now, he always said he wasn't going to explain the Timeless Child further. He wasn't going to expand on it. So ultimately, what was the point? Because I wasn't overly triggered by the idea. I was looking forward on him expanding on it. And what's the point of doing something like that that ultimately upsets so many people if you're not going to justify it, if you're not going to explain it? It's utterly, utterly weird. I thought Vinder's, not performance, but appearance was pointless. I mean, he did add something. He did help Yaz. But let's get to the beginning of this episode. I liked the cold opening, which is what we call in the industry of the pre-credit sequence. It was very, very good. It was very action-packed. I really enjoyed that. It started off as it meant to go on. The pacing in this episode was really, really good, and I was never bored. I was compelled. I was interested. I liked the cameos of Colin Baker, Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann. Absolutely fantastic. And we did have kind of a cameo of Bill Hartnell's Doctor. Of course, it wasn't Bill Hartnell, and I forget the actor's name, who now plays the first Doctor. He's come back. He was in Twice Upon a Time, if you remember, and he was in An Adventure in Space and Time as well. And so they were great cameos, and I really like the fact that Tegan got to see her Doctor, and Ace got to see her Doctor. I found it really emotional, seeing the fifth Doctor and Tegan back together, and what does Cybermen remind you of? And he says Adric. Adric got a mention as well, which I thought was really, really cool. What I thought was really good about that, it brings Jodie Whittaker to the Doctor Who universe and says, this is the same show. This is what Russell T Davies did when he brought the show back in 2005. He said, right, it's new, but it's still the same show. It's a continuation of the show that was always there. This is not a reboot. That's what he did in 2005. It was a revival. It was a relaunch, and it worked so well. And so, yes, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a great kind of farewell episode to Jodie Whittaker, which I feel mainly during her incarnation, she was heavily let down. As I've said before, when you have the first female Doctor, do her justice. You want people to say the first female Doctor was awesome. And she felt like the Doctor, and mostly she didn't, because she was never the cleverest person in the room, and she lacked the personality of previous Doctors, which was a shame. But in this episode, I thought, yeah, he did her justice, and I really did enjoy it. Let's talk about the Master. I thought the Master was great. I thought Sacha Dhawan gave his best performance as the Master. It was really, really good. Of course, is he dead? Is he alive? Well, the Master will live to see another day. There's no question about that. Now, all my predictions about this episode were dead wrong. I thought we'd have the introduction of the multiverse of doctors and all of that. But when they showed us the next time sequence, it was interesting that Ncuti Gatwa did appear and said, "What is going on here?" And what is going on? Because basically the 10th Doctor returning in that regeneration when Jodie regenerates into the next Doctor, which happens to be David Tennant. I liked it. I'm happy he's back. There are issues with him being back. Now, do you remember the Children in Need special after Eccleston regenerated into Tennant? Now, some of you may not have seen it. Now, Rose asks the 10th Doctor if he can change back to the 9th Doctor. And he says, sorry, I can't. So, basically, the 13th Doctor regenerating back to the 10th Doctor shouldn't be possible. So, this means someone is up to something. Could it be the false regeneration in the episode has something to do with it? Is it the villain we got a sneak peek of in the next time footage? I really don't know. But something is going on. Will we see Ncuti Gatwa and David Tennant's Doctor on screen together? Is the Doctor that Jodie's regenerated into actually the Doctor? As I say, a present-day Doctor regenerating back into a previous Doctor in Doctor Who lore actually is impossible and shouldn't be able to happen. But I enjoyed this. I had a good time with it. I'm not going to complain about something that I really enjoyed. I expected it to be a spectacle. I expected it to be great. I loved Dan in this episode as well, but it was rather odd. He kind of left the TARDIS pretty early on into the episode. Again, I know he obviously wanted Yaz and the Doctor to have this adventure for themselves. The way they parted, I liked them having an ice cream in the end before the Doctor regenerated. I mean, listen, if you're trying to enact a same-gender relationship, you're trying to say they're in love, maybe a kiss on the lips wouldn't have gone amiss. Now, I know some people would have been really upset about that, but I think you either do something or you don't do it. And so I would have had them kissing, a farewell kiss, but they didn't want to do it. Now, I know they don't like to show the Doctor kissing anyone. Now, the Doctor in the revival has kissed people before. Captain Jack, now the Human Meta Crisis Doctor, kissed Rose on the lips, but it wasn't actually the real Doctor. Now, one of my predictions was that David Tennant was going to return as the Human Meta Crisis Doctor. That doesn't look like to be the case, but of course, he could still be the Human Meta Crisis Doctor somehow. I don't know how. I don't know how it's possible that the 10th Doctor is back. I think we're going to have to conclude that this isn't actually the 10th Doctor. In fact, in the next time footage, we get the whole I don't know who I am anymore. So that's kind of interesting as well. So we were all wrong about the mystery 2022 Christmas episode. I think it was more hope than actually it being in reality. So we're not going to see any more Doctor Who till 2023. Now, are we just going to have one 60th anniversary special, or are we actually going to have a multitude of 60th anniversary specials? Now, will we get a Doctor Who concert? I used to love the Doctor Who concerts. I loved Doctor Who at the proms. I like the concert they did as well, which was for charity as well. Is Murray Gold returning to compose Doctor Who? Is he reuniting with Russell T Davies? We simply don't know. And so, you've got a Doctor Who regeneration episode where the next Doctor isn't seen because Ncuti Gatwa is officially the 14th Doctor, if he is in fact going to be the 14th Doctor. We don't know what the plan is here and what they're going to do. And, I spoke about the Timeless Child and the Fugitive Doctor not being dealt with. So Russell T Davies has been left with this big lemon because the Doctor has a new origin story now. The Doctor is not from Gallifrey. This still stands. The Doctor is the timeless child. Does RTD ignore this, or does he try to do something to get rid of it, or does he continue with it? Because how do you do the Gallifrey thing? And now there's no, you can't say this thing where I'm the, is he the last? I mean, he's still the last of the Time Lords, I suppose, but there's not that tragedy anymore that he is the last of the Time Lords. So will he create a new origin story for the Doctor to energize the Doctor again? I don't know what Russell T Davies is planning. He has said he's planning something a little different, so I'm still going to go with my multiversal theory, but this is, I think, a 9.5 out of 10 regeneration episode of Doctor Who. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't like the Fugitive Doctor not being expanded on and not being explained, and I didn't like the fact that he did this huge hot take of the Timeless Child, didn't mention it. He wrote a 90-minute episode and did nothing with it. And, my question is, as I said earlier, why bother in the first place? I think modern day kind of creatives are kind of enjoying annoying fans and the demographic that kind of dominates movie going and TV viewing. I think they don't like us and they like to wind us up. And I think that's what the Timeless Child was all about, just to wind up hardcore Doctor Who fans. And I'd say, job done. How would I evaluate the Chibnall era? I would say there were some times where it was good, nearly great, but good. I think season 12 was his best efforts. There was an arc, there was a mystery, it was interesting. He challenged the Doctor a lot more than he did in season 11. COVID was a problem. He wasn't able to have a full season, so he didn't really have a full 3 seasons. He had the Flux little mini-series. So it's hard to evaluate, but I'd say I was underwhelmed by the Chibnall era. Listen, there's different versions of the Doctor that I'm underwhelmed by. It's not just Jodie's Doctor, and it's nothing to do with her being a woman. Not something I used to beg for, right? To have a female Doctor. It wasn't something I was against either. And I think, like the people who didn't like the idea of a female Doctor, if they were given something, and if there was a deep dive and they really developed her character a lot more, I think people could have been turned around to it. But finally, Russell T Davies has the challenge of his career here. He's got to make Doctor Who relevant, because Doctor Who hasn't been relevant within the Chibnall era. People have walked away and new audiences haven't kind of come in for this. Not like people did in 2005 when RTD brought it back. So he's got a huge challenge. The Doctor's got this new origin. What's he do with that, as I've already mentioned? So this is a huge challenge. There's an aggressive mindset in the culture of Doctor Who fandom. It was always a bit rather aggressive, but because of what Chibnall did, there are more kind of aggressive conversations around Doctor Who from the fandom community. So Russell has to bring back the random police box travel. He has to make Doctor Who fun again, because this era of Doctor Who certainly wasn't fun. It was melancholy at times. It just didn't work. The humour didn't really sit well. I thought the humour was really good in this episode. I just thought it was brilliant. And I think that bit when the Master's playing that music and getting all campy, and you see the Dalek looking at the Cybermen like to think, what the fuck is going on here? I just thought that was great humour on Chris Chibnall's part as well. So yes, I'm giving this a 5-star rating. It was brilliant. It was a great send-off for the Chibnall era that underwhelmed so many times. So I want to leave the bad feeling that people have got behind. After watching that, I'm excited to watch future Doctor Who. Don't really know how I feel about Tennant coming back. Personally, I'm not a total traditionalist, but I would have liked Ncuti to regenerate. And then if there is another version of the Doctor out there, that's the 10th Doctor, they could have done it differently. But look, it's emotional to see him back again, but I think once you're done with a Doctor, you're done. You can do what they did, what Chibnall did in this episode, and give previous Doctors great cameos. They can show up for the 60th anniversary special, but to have a previous Doctor come back after a regeneration as the main Doctor, I mean, I understand why he's done it. He's trying to bring excitement to Doctor Who again. David Tennant's Doctor is one of the most, if not the most popular Doctor of all time. So when people have walked away from the show, he wants to bring them back. I have no idea what he's planning, but bring on next year. And the sooner we get another Doctor Who episode, the better. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.